how to rock your look for the interview. Hello and welcome back to Fashion Bites. I'm Ellen Byerrum, author of the screwball noir Crime of Fashion Mysteries, featuring Lacey Smithsonian, a fashion reporter in Washington, D.C., the city that fashion forgot. Today, I want to talk about preparing for a job interview. Yes, it is about the clothes, but it's also about being prepared mentally and not taking things personally. It's hard to do when you are desperate for a job and willing to say anything to get it. But don't do that. Remember, you have standards below which you will not sink. The first thing you need to know about job interviewing is that you can do everything right and wear the perfect outfit, have the most excellent resume, share chemistry with the interviewer, and never score that job. There are many reasons you don't get the job. The job is wired for somebody else at the company or for somebody's relative who has no qualifications. But the business is required to go through the motions to satisfy regulations. It happens. You may be perfect for the job, but you have more experience and are better qualified than the younger guy who's hiring. He is not going to hire someone who's going to outshine him. 3, you are too young or too old or too attractive or not attractive enough. You might not be the preferred gender or race, and you will never know that. You may suspect it, but you can't prove it. 4, sometimes you know the minute you walk into the interview, it is just not happening. And it's not about psyching yourself out. It's about reading cues. I once went to an interview dressed appropriately for the job I wanted, in a great suit, perfectly qualified. I was interviewed by 2 women wearing sweatshirts. I don't know why they were wearing sweatshirts, but they were. The writing was on the wall. I was not going to get the job. In that case, when you know a job isn't going to happen, just relax and enjoy the interview process for the practice. Or you can take notes like I did and write a play. This is a book containing interviewing techniques for the self-conscious. In my play, a woman is interviewing for a job with a crazy man. On stage are 2 actors portraying the main characters, but there are 2 more actors who play their consciousness and say every inappropriate thing that's on their minds. It's very funny, but don't show to anyone in HR. It could be slightly subversive. We will get to tips about clothes, but first I also have a cautionary tale about wacky reasons that interviews fail. I was once on the other side of the interview desk and had to consider several candidates that HR sent up. The night before the interviews, I had a disturbing dream about a stranger named Edward Craig. I almost never dream about specific names. In the dream, my husband had let this guy into our house to drink and play poker. We also don't play poker. Edward turned out to be a terrible rat. Although he was married, he brought a girlfriend to our house, and he left his wheelchair-bound wife at home. In the dream, I was furious with my husband for letting Edward in. I woke up and I did what any loving wife would do. I shook Bob out of a deep sleep and I said, I know this is a dream and I know it's not your fault, but you brought this horrible man home, this awful Edward Craig. Bob was barely awake. He grinned at me and he said, shows what you know. We call him Eddie. He turned over and went back to sleep. Yes, Bob is clever, even in his sleep. That dream was still bugging me the next day, and I told a couple of coworkers about it. We all thought it was weird because of the specific name, and we all agreed. Edward Craig was a sleazebag. Later that morning, with those 2 coworkers, I interviewed a candidate named Edward something, Smith or Jones. The interview went fine, but I noted on his resume his middle initial was C. Before he left, I asked what the C stood for. It was Craig. He was Edward Craig. Once he left the office, my coworkers looked at me with big eyes and said, he is not working here. Exactly. What would you do? He didn't get the job. There were better candidates who were not named Edward Craig. Now, let's talk about preparing your appearance for the interview. First, you must be well-groomed and well-combed. You don't have to wear the height of fashion, but you do have to be clean and presentable. What to wear depends on the job you are interviewing for, but also you want to dress to be the person you want them to see. A job in fashion might require a fashion-forward style. Otherwise, that might be a bit too much, a bit too radical. A classic look, on the other hand, will not date you. But a big flowered dress with puffy sleeves will. So err on the side of caution, on the side of something classic. Of course, there are industries that are known for their casual vibe, like tech and creative fields, where dressing more casually might be appropriate. Or if you work for Mark Zuckerberg, who is rumored to always wear a t-shirt or a hoodie. Zuckerberg aside, it is an all too casual world. You still want to bring your A game to a job interview. Don't dress down because you don't know whether they'll be wearing sweatshirts or hoodies. And remember, you do want to be comfortable in your clothes during the interview so that you can worry about other things, like your resume. So nothing too tight or too short or too low cut. You don't want material that scratches you or an annoying tag at the back of your shirt or at your waistband. Of course, I recommend wearing a suit or a jacket that you could pair with a skirt or a nice pair of slacks. A structured coat dress is also a good choice. Remember that generally a jacket makes a professional statement. A cardigan sweater, on the other hand, says administrative assistant. And t-shirts and jeans are appropriate to work in the mailroom. Know what message you want to send. Suits and jackets don't need to be boring. And also, you don't want to be the fourth woman in a ponytail wearing a black suit with a white button-down shirt. You'll get lost on the assembly line. Try wearing a color or accessory that sets you apart and flatters you. You could also go for a more relaxed jacket for a creative touch. It doesn't have to be completely structured. It could even be a jean jacket if it's in another color. And you could pair it with a sweater or a knit top instead of a blouse or button-down shirt. I once heard a tip that if you're invited back to multiple interviews, you should wear something in the same color palette, because they might remember the woman in red, but be confused when she shows up the next time in beige. Here are some additional tips. It is absolutely imperative to try on what you plan to wear the night before, including shoes and accessories. Make sure you know which tote or purse or briefcase you're going to bring with you. Check out your outfit in a full-length mirror, front and back. Make sure you have no distracting gaps or hanging hems or wayward threads, no threadbare cuffs or spots or stains, no high slits that could embarrass you. Also, be sure and sit down in a chair to check that a skirt doesn't ride up too far and that slits that ease your stride don't betray you and distract the interviewer. When you go to your interview, make sure your purse and shoes are in good repair and polished if they are leather. I also advise against heels that are too high. You don't want to make people nervous that you are going to fall down and break an ankle. Finally, relax. You can forget about what you're wearing and concentrate on your skills and impressing that person, that interviewer. That's all I have for now. If you want to know more about me or my books, check out my website at ellenbyerrum.com. If you like this video, please hit the like button and please subscribe to this channel. That way you won't miss anything. And also, be sure and tell a friend. This is not a secret society. And I'll see you next time. Bye.